about the good old days when we took care of each other. We were living for each other. But dream about it, and it's you. Nothing gonna save us now. Stop thinking about it. Let's go down. Can we just focus on? It's my phone, get a rush.
All right, welcome everybody to our last week of this SAT course. So this was Pop Dentology 2019. Love the dentology remixes. They're actually really interesting. And we'll continue it towards the end of the class. So for today, we are going to be doing the essay. So essay is quite an interesting beast. So we're going to break it down and we'll be doing it together over the next 2 days. So some important announcements. The first is, did your parents attend the parent session yesterday? Were they able to attend? Okay, about 50% of you. Okay, that's a bit more than 50%. So that's good. For those parents that did not, we went over some very important information. I spoke to some parents afterwards and they were very happy. So I sent out the link to the recording. It's also on the website. So you can share that link with them, session 26, and I would highly recommend they watch it. I also shared the study plan with them yesterday and emailed it out to all the parents and the students. You should have gotten the study plan. Did the study plan make sense, or should we review it real quickly? Did the study plan make sense? Okay, all right, we'll review it. We'll review it then. We'll review it on Wednesday. So that brings me to my next announcement. Wednesday is going to be a very fun session. Wednesday, it's going to be a celebratory session because we're finishing the SAT. So if you all can come on Wednesday, it's going to be great. We'll have some guests come in and do a little celebration for us wrapping our time up. And I will be giving some last few tips for the SAT regarding how to review and things like that. So please do come on Wednesday. And the other last announcement is that once these classes end, the next classes are also available online. There's a guided SAT intensive study with me, and there's also math classes, math prep for IB going on. So you can register for those online, and those are paid going forward. So they're all on the website. Slots are filling up fast, so you can register for it online. Great, so we're starting with the essay. So let me just share my screen and let's jump right into it. And then we'll work through this portion by portion. So before we do, or as we start the essay, we first need to understand how it's set up. So let me share my screen here. Cool. So this is the essay, and this is how it will look like on the test. These are the directions. Let's look at these directions very, very carefully. And it's very important we look at this because this will give us the information we need. So the first is we can only write the essay. Do not write the essay in this booklet. There's a separate lined paper that's given, so you have to write it there. Otherwise, it won't be graded. And any off-topic essays will not be evaluated. So your essays have to be on topic. Great, that's the first thing. Then let's read through this. The essay gives you an opportunity to show how effectively you can read, comprehend a passage, and write an essay, analyzing the passage. In your essay, you should demonstrate that you have read the passage carefully, present a clear, logical analysis, and use language precisely. Okay, this is what they're asking from us. Your essay must be written on the lines, provided in your answer booklet, except for the planning page of the answer booklet. You'll receive no other paper on which to write. You will have enough space if you write on every line. So no more paper will be given to you, no other paper. Avoid wide margins and keep your handwriting to a reasonable size. And until then, Arya, can you check for me how many pages were given? How many of those line pages are you given for each essay? Or if anybody else knows, can you put it into chat, please? So you will have enough space if you write on every line. Avoid wide margins and keep your handwriting to a reasonable size. Remember that the people who are not familiar with your handwriting, so this is the key part. People who are not familiar with your handwriting will read what you write. So try to write print so that what you read is legible to those readers. So it's very important that we have good handwriting, and we'll touch on this more. So this section is only 15 minutes to read the passage and write an essay. That's all you get. Okay, and you can go online and you can practice on Khan Academy. Okay, so the way the questions are set up is you will first be given this box over here, which is your ask. So what does this want us to do is, as you read the passage below, consider how Paul Bogart uses, etc. And then you are given these things: evidence, reasoning to develop ideas, and stylistic or persuasive elements. Okay, you're supposed to look at these. But the way when you're reading the essay, you're supposed to read this portion and then go down. And then also read this here. So this is what you're actually answering. So we're answering, write an essay in which you explain how Paul Bogart builds an argument to persuade his audience that natural darkness should be preserved. In your essay, analyze how Bogart uses one or more of the features listed in the box above, or features of your own, so you can always do own, to strengthen the logical and persuasiveness of his argument. Be sure that your analysis focuses on the most, this is very important, analysis focuses on the most relevant features of the passage, okay? Relevant features is very important here. Your essay should not explain whether you agree, this is important, your essay should not explain whether you agree with Bogart's claim, but rather explain how Bogart builds an argument to persuade his audience, okay? So you do this, you read this, and then you go through and you read the passage that they've given, okay? Once you have done that, you will be given a page, which is here. Actually, give me 1 second. Sorry, give me 1 second. Let me just find something. Okay, yeah, sorry, I had the right one. Okay, good. Let me share my screen again. Okay, so then you're given a page like this. So this page, notice it's only for planning. Let's see if we can go this way. Yeah. Okay, so this is where you will write down all your planning stuff. So plan, right? And then you go onto the next page and here you write your essay. So it's important that when you are practicing for the essay yourself, you have to use these pages. It's very important you use these pages because in your essay, you will be using, when you do the actual test, you will be answering on this page. So you have to get used to this style, okay? So make sure that when you're planning, you are using this page here to plan. And then when you are writing, you are writing on these pages. So do we have any update on how many pages there are? How many pages are given? 3 pages, okay. Okay, 3 pages. Oh, 5 pages, ours says 5. Interesting. And someone says 7 to 10. Okay, so we have everything from 3 to 10. All right, we'll have to get back to that for tomorrow. But anyways, you should find these online, and then you should print out however many pages there are on the actual SAT, and then fill that out, okay? So make sure you practice on this. Great, so that's the first part. And then we go into scoring. So the scoring is done here. So you are given a score out of 24. So you're given a score out of 24. And this score is broken down into 2 scores of 12 each. okay? And each score of 12 is broken down into 3 scores of 4, okay? So the best score is 24, and the worst score you can get is 111, which is times 6. The worst score you can get is a 6, all right? So the scoring, the way it works is these 3 here are the reading section. So a reading score, analysis score, and a writing score. Okay, so we'll go over these 3. So you're given a score of 4 for each, and then it's scored by 2 people. So once here, second here. So 2 different people score that your essay, and then that score is added together to give you this final score. In my opinion, anything above 15 is good. If you can get above 20, then you're legendary. 24 is just, that's insane. So anything above 15 is really good. So what does 15 come out to be? 15 comes out to be an average of, let's see, so 7.5 here. So it's 2, 2, 2, 3, 3. Okay. So this is a 2 point, you get 3, 3. Yeah, okay, I don't know how to get a 7.5, but okay, you get the point. It's more than 15. Cool. Okay, so that's the scoring. That's also important to know. Now, let me stop this. Okay, so we've gone through approaching the SAT in a way that you're figuring out how to get into the head of the test maker, right? That's how we did the normal SAT. Can you tell me, when we are studying for the SAT, whose mind are we trying to get into? Can you put into chat, whose mind are we trying to get into when we're doing the SAT? So when we're doing the SAT essay, whose mind are we trying to get into, and for the essay specifically? Okay, we have examiner. What do you mean by examiner? We have test maker, writers, guy who sets the paper, the person who designed the test, Paul Bogart, author, writer, Bogart, the person who makes our test. Okay, the guy who corrects your essay. Okay, all right. So if you want to get into somebody's mind, you don't want to get into Bogart's mind. The person whose mind you want to get into is the person scoring the essay, because that's the person giving you the score, right? So if you need to figure out something, you need to figure out how is that person thinking and how can you make that person the happiest as possible, okay? So if you can, let's say if I was somebody who was scoring an essay, then all of you would be falling over yourself to listen to what I'm saying, right? Unfortunately, I don't have any essay scoring experience, but ideally the person you want here is the person doing the essay scoring experience, okay? So the person whose mind we want to get into is the scorer, okay? Very important. So everything you do, I want you to look at this from the perspective of how is what I'm going to do going to impact the person grading this essay, okay? So having said this, what are some other things that come to your mind that may be important to the person reading the essay? Can you put into chat? What might be some important things for the person reading the essay? Handwriting. Handwriting is huge. It's literally the biggest thing. Vocabulary, analysis, no grammatical errors. Okay. Let's go a little deeper. When they're reading the essay, like what might they do? What's happening in their lives? What might they do? Structure of paras. Yep, that's visible, right? When they look at the essay. Look for the evidence you use, modifiers, coherence, grammar. These are, okay, so these are presentation. Presentation is another one. Analysis of writing. Okay, so okay, you guys, we're not yet in the mindset of the person reading the essay. So we'll get into that. So to do this, what we'll do is we will read the passage, and then I have some very, very helpful classmates have written a paragraph about that passage, and we will look at that passage, and we will be the person that's scoring the passage, okay? So we will be the person scoring it, and then we'll get into that. This will help us get into the mindset of how it's being done. And then you'll notice some very interesting things will come out when you do that. So we'll get to that. So I will put up the passage. I would like everybody to now read this passage. And obviously we are reading another passage. I want you to focus in falling in love with the passage. The content of this is called Let There Be Dark. You'll figure out what it is. So I want you to just fall in love with the content of this passage. I want you to think that this passage has been written by the person you adore the absolute most in the world. They wrote this passage, and I want you to focus on the learning. There's actually some really interesting information in this passage. So I want you to focus on what you can learn. I will be scrolling. I'll give you about 10 minutes to read this passage. It's slightly long, so I have to do 2 scrolls. I will do the scrolls, so hopefully you're able to keep up. But in this one, try and do everything we've done in writing, which is fall in love, do active reading. But for the essay, we want to read a little bit more in detail. Okay, in the reading section, we can skim slightly. In this one, we want to read in a little bit more detail and just keep a note of what is important, especially keeping in mind the question, right? The question is, what are some analytical tools or writing tools that the author uses to persuade us of his opinion, right? So we have to keep that in mind when we read this. So we want to pick out those tools or those instances in the passage when they come out, okay? So let's go ahead and do this now. Again, please read very attentively and actively, and fall in love with the passage when you are reading. Okay. Here you go. There's one more page, so I'll be scrolling down. There's one more page to this. Okay, you should be finishing about now. So another 30 seconds. All right, 10, 9, 8, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, so that was the essay. As usual, we will go through the steps I've outlined in the reading section. Those are very important steps. So let me pull that up and let's go through those steps and do that together. So content questions. The first is content questions. Put the answers into chat, okay? What was the state, or was it a city? I think a state or city where his family cabin, where is his family cabin? Let me check, is that place? Yeah, Minnesota, right? That's a city, right? Or is it a state? Oh, it's a state. Okay, yeah, it's a state. Cool. Okay, so Minnesota, great. Let's see. How many species of birds migrate at night in North America? How many species of birds? 400. Yeah, nice. Good memory. Okay. Okay, let's see. Our bodies need darkness to produce the hormone. What's the name of the hormone? Do you remember the name of the hormone? Melatonin. Wow, that was fast. You guys are fast. It's like almost you're guessing what I'm going to ask next. Okay. And then finish the sentence. And recent research suggests one main cause of short sleep is, what is it? In quotes? Long light. Nice. Okay, long light. Yeah, that was a little tough one. Okay. What painting was referred to? If you can write in the painting name and or the artist. Starry Night by Van Gogh. Yep. How much light is increasing every year on year? How much light is increasing year on year? 6%. Nice. You guys are getting it. All right. Okay. Okay, those of us over X age are perhaps among the last generation to have known truly dark nights. 35. All right. 35. You guys are good. You guys are good. Okay. And then okay, so North America and Europe are changing. Where are they changing to? What type of lights are they changing to? LED. Nice. LED. Yep. And what is Paris's nickname? What's Paris referred to as usually, or has been referred to as in this paragraph? Yeah, City of Light. Yep, City of Light. What time does the Eiffel Tower turn off its light? 1 a.m. All right, all right. And let's do maybe one more. Okay, here's a fun one. What's the last word of the passage? What's the last word? Yeah, that was a tricky one. It's losing. Okay, I'm surprised you even remember that. It's a full stop. You're right. It is a full stop. The last thing is a full stop. All right, that person wins. Well done. Okay, so so that's the first part of the review. So let me do a quick poll. Was it fun doing that? Did you enjoy? Was it like a fun exercise, right? Yeah. Okay, great. 98%. Awesome. So the whole point of this is to read a passage, and then if you do this, you will have fun also answering these questions, and it will also force you next time to read the passage to read it more focused. So please do these steps. Okay. Let's do the second one, which is what you learned. Can you type into chat something that you learned from this passage? We learned a lot of great things in this passage. Can you type out what we learned? The effects of lack of sleep. Absolutely. Yeah. We learned about the importance of darkness. That's basically the entire passage. You're absolutely right. Paris is the city of lights. That's true. Maybe you didn't know that, right? That's a very good, you learned that now. You learned that light pollution is harmful. That's great. You learned that nighttime is beautiful, right? You can now, next time it's night or even tonight, yeah, it's going to be tonight. Go outside and just look at the sky. Can you see the beauty that they're talking about, right? You learned that light pollution is a thing, right? There's noise pollution, there's sound, there's carbon dioxide pollution, but now you know light pollution. You also learned that Eiffel Tower switches off its light at 1 a.m. You're right. You learn that lights can negatively affect our body. Isn't that interesting? That's so crazy, right? That's actually really true. You learn that lack of sleep is a carcinogen. Yeah, and carcinogen, if I'm not wrong, is it causes something that causes cancer, right? Carcinogen. Yeah, yeah. There we go. So, so carcinogen is it's very strong. Light can cause cancer, essentially. You can look at the Milky Way. Oh, what did they talk about that in this? Did they talk about the Milky Way here? Oh yeah, yeah. Wow, who would have known? Isn't that cool? You can look at the Milky Way. Yeah. Relevance of melatonin in the fight against cancer. Yeah, you learned of what melatonin is and how it fights cancer. We also learned of many animals that require darkness to function, right? I think like turtles lay eggs and some birds fly. And what else was there? What other animals were there? And bats. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, a number of children that don't experience complete darkness, right? People below the age of 35 are never truly going to know true darkness. So we learned a tremendous amount of stuff, right? So it's important we are able to identify all of these learnings. We are much smarter now and much more, our general knowledge has increased significantly because we read this passage, okay? And then let's do the last one, which is deeper questions. Okay, all right. We will do this as we go through the passage. Great. So again, I want you to go through this process. Every time you read a passage, go through this process. Have somebody ask you these questions. It will really increase your ability to read, understand, and retain information. Okay, so let's go back here. Now let me put up some essays that have been very kindly written from our classmates. So I'll put this up and I want you all to read the essay and just don't put it into chat, okay? Don't put it into chat, just in your head, give it a score out of 24, okay? We don't know the scoring criteria, but just in your head, give it a score out of 24. Don't put it into chat, please, okay? So here's the first response. So I'll give you a minute per response, and I want you to give it a score. All right, moving on to the next one. Can you guys read this one? All right, moving on to the next one. I would like you all to read this one. And again, remember to keep a score in your head out of 24. Don't write it into chat. Keep it in your head. Okay, let's do one more. Oh, we'll do two more. Or two more. Again, I want you to read these and identify a score. Okay, one more. All right, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, all right. So that was quite an exercise, right? So let me ask a couple questions. Did any of you stop reading at any point? Did you stop reading the answers? Did any of you just stop reading completely? Interesting. We have almost half of you stopped reading. Okay. Let me do a couple more. Were you able to, or did any of you, by the time you reached the last passage or the last answer, were you reading but not really engaging? Like, were you? I guess the question is, were you able to actively read the passage? Like, if I were to ask you questions about the last one, were you able to actively read the passage? Okay, 80% of you were not able to actively read the passage. Okay, so let me open this. Let me open up the chat room again. So, okay, I'm going to open up the chat room. I want you all to, I don't want you to at all in any way reference any specific answers, okay? Because these answers have been written by your classmates. I don't want you to in any way refer to a specific answer. You will be kicked out of this class if you refer to any specific answer identifiably. But the reason we went through this exercise is you just understood what it's like to be someone that's grading an essay. Okay, you get to the fifth. I only showed you 5 paragraphs. Okay, one answer is 4 pages. We found out it's actually you have 4 pages to write the answer. I showed you 5 paragraphs, not even 5 people's 4 pages. Okay, and you were already by the end of 5 paragraphs, your eyes were glazing over. I saw Naman's video. It was like sitting like this. He was bored by paragraph 3. So this is difficult work, right? So when you're writing an essay, if you are expecting that the examiner is going to be reading every single word very carefully and figuring out what you're saying, you know, like getting into your head and really giving 20-30 minutes to your specific passage, that's absolutely not going to happen. Okay, you can be dreaming. I mean, just reading 5 paragraphs, we were not able to pay attention. I don't even know what was written in the last passage because even I got my eyes started glazing over. Okay, so now that we've done this, I want you all in chat to write down what were some of the things that you've learned. What are some of the things that you learned in terms of what will you do differently, or what will you not do now that you know what it's like to be someone grading a passage. So I will open it up to everybody. Okay, so in chat now, what will you do differently, or what will you not do now that you know what it's like to read answers? Okay, so we have concise. We'll come back to concise. Not necessarily, I don't agree with that one really, but I'll give you a reason why. Okay. You have to make your essay stand out. Yes, you do have to make your essay stand out. That's absolutely right. The question is, how can you make it stand out? Give me more examples of how exactly you can make it stand out. Add more evidence. Yep, that's a good one, right? And that's because visually you can notice quotes very quickly. On a page, if you're skimming, you can notice quotes very quickly. Less chunky paragraphs. Yeah, that's an interesting one. I will talk about if you clearly show where your paragraphs come and go. I think there was one example where it wasn't very clear where the paragraphs came and went. So you want to be very clear where the paragraphs come and go. Pick evidence from the passage to support arguments. Again, yep, quotes. I put in quotes. Make it interesting. So you're not really trying to entertain them. You're still trying to get your grade. So length and interesting, not necessarily it, but how can you prove that you can score a high grade now that you know what it's like to be a reader? We shouldn't recount or summarize the passage too much. That's right. We should use evidence from the passage and focus more on the analysis. And that's absolutely right. By the time you read 30 different answers, you know exactly what's happening in the passage. So by the time you read 30 passages, you know exactly what's happening. So don't recount or summarize. Instead, focus on the analysis. Make handwriting neater. Absolutely, folks, I cannot stress this enough. We had some really good handwritings, but it gets difficult sometimes, right? We're used to reading on a computer. A handwriting is very different. So you have to write very, very clearly. And if that's a growth area for you, folks, I'm telling you, you must practice 20 to 30 minutes of handwriting every single day. Because if you have good content but terrible handwriting and they cannot read it, they're not going to spend the time to figure out what you wrote down, okay? So please have a good handwriting. Have a gripping start, absolutely have a gripping start. And not just to the entire essay, have a gripping start in every single paragraph. I would say you should put in all the important stuff that you think will get you the grades at the start of each paragraph. Because if you're skimming and you're reading, maybe some of you did this, you just read the first lines of different paragraphs, then you want to be able to convey what you're talking about, right? So if your first line is summarizing what the passage said, then it makes it look like you don't know what you're talking about. But if your first line is about analysis, that's much better. Understand the examiner's perspective and pick evidence which supports my claims and points. Absolutely. Try a catchy hook, make it unique, make it engaging. Yeah, so this is really where you can get a better grade in analysis. If the analysis you do, the reader is like, oh, wow, yeah, that's an interesting take. I didn't think about that. So don't just try to go for the obvious ones. You can, but not going for the non-obvious, deeper meanings will give you a higher grade. And most people who are writing this haven't done this exercise. They don't know what it's like to be an examiner. And so they're just going to be writing normally. So even if you slightly make it a little bit more in-depth, then you will stand out well beyond the pack. especially if your handwriting is good. Talk about impact on reader, absolutely. We'll talk more about this. Write in separate paragraphs. Yeah, that's very important also. We'll talk more about that. Oh, wow, we have many. Let me quickly go through this. Find something unique which no one would have thought of. Yes. And it's really, it doesn't have to be that unique. Many people would not think of much stuff. If every 10 answers, yours stands out, it's okay, right? It doesn't have to be one in all of, like yours does not have to be unique in all of the responses. It only has to be unique in one in every 10 maybe. And that's very simple. Be clear, hook is important, pick interesting information. Paragraph well, use simple wording to get your message across. Again, I want you to remember to keep the aspect of English. You want to use more difficult words and well-created sentences and longer passages. Those are still what get you the points in essays. So don't make it too simple. Structure it clearly, absolutely. Give your answer a tone, yep. Okay, great. So we've understood that. So far, are we on the same page? Do we understand what it means to think about what it's like to be the examiner? Okay, great, awesome. 100% of us, I love it. Okay, so this is important as you go through. Whenever you're writing a passage and you're like, oh, the examiner is going to love this point, I think, just ask yourself, are they really going to notice that point? Okay, is it written clearly? Are they going to be able to read the point? And is it also in the beginning of a passage or beginning of a sentence? Sorry, is it a beginning of a paragraph that they will more likely read it? Okay. So, and I want to show you one more, which is, so this is someone has been very kind to send us there. This is the actual essay that they wrote. So I will share what it comes up like. So if when you go to the SAT and you write your essay, this is what shows up to the examiner. So I want you to read this. This is what it comes up like. So the lines aren't there. It's just your handwriting, which is interesting. Okay. You notice that there are paragraphs. You can see the paragraphs. You should write with a dark pencil so that the lines come out properly. And then it comes out to be, we have 3 pages here and there's 4 pages. Okay, so we know there's 4 pages. So important to know, 4 pages for answers, okay? So you should print out 4 for yourself when you do it. And then looks like if you write too strongly, then the writing can go on the next page also. And so it can leave marks. So make sure that you're not leaving marks. So this is what it comes up like for the examiner. Okay, so I just want you to keep this in mind. The lines aren't there. It's only your pencils. The dark things come out darker. The light things come out lighter. And so you want to keep that in mind, okay? Okay, so in essence, this was the key of my style of education, my style of learning and preparing for a test is figure out whose mind you want to get into and then get into that person's mindset. As far as I'm concerned, the important things that I wanted to tell you have been told. What we're going to do now is go into the grading aspect and see how the grading is done and how we can stand out in the grading. So I will also go over some tips. So on how to get good scores. Let me think, how do I want to do this now? We have 12 minutes. Okay, so now we are in the head. So to summarize the tips so far, we have make your paragraph stand out. Write clearly, write very, very clearly. Please, friends, we had some good handwritings, but there is a better handwriting. And so even if you have good handwriting, but the answer before you was really good handwriting, you in comparison have a bad handwriting. So please make it legible, okay? Make sure they can read quickly. You want to be kind to them. And put in the important information towards the beginning of the passages. Okay. Now, can I have permission to share with you some I guess fake news, some unsubstantiated information? So I'm going to share with you, I want your permission. Can I share with you some unsubstantiated information? What that means is it's not necessarily true, but it could be true. Okay. Okay, so we have 98% of you that are okay with it. Okay, so rumor has it, okay, this is not true. For all intents and purposes, this is not true. But in the 1%, we live in that parallel universe where this is true. We want to be ready for it, okay? So rumor has it that a computer also scores your essays and reads your essays. Now, this is not true. I'm telling you, this is not true. Don't make me get sued, and don't tell me I'm telling you wrong information. But rumor has it, sometimes the computer can score your essay. So to do that, there's two things we want to do. First, we want to identify paragraphs very clearly. So the way you do that is you skip a line for a paragraph, and in the new paragraph, you start with a big indent. So like a third of the page, or like, you know, a big enough indent so that a computer can quickly identify the start of a paragraph, okay? Let's say a computer does not grade our essay, then even the human being, the human mind, will be better able to understand the paragraphs. So when you start a new paragraph, leave a line, put a big indent. I hope many of you are writing this down in your peer notes. You should, by this time, you should be having great peer notes. So when you start a new paragraph, indent, and then start writing, and then leave a line, okay? Second thing is, rumor has it, and this is some online blogs and SAT blogs also talk about this, that length matters. The longer the essay, the better. So as much as you can, try and write a lot. So this is why I didn't agree with the concise aspect. You want to try and write a lot. You want to put more analysis and more words. This does not mean that you make this a one point with a very long sentence. Don't elongate the sentences of your points, but put in more points in there. Okay, does that make sense? Don't be verbose, put in more content in your essays. So as much as you can, write long, okay? And then let's say in a world in the future where they are doing optical character recognition on this, OCR, your handwriting should be able to be recognized by an OCR. Maybe they are. If I was the SAT maker, I would feed this to OCR and try and build an AI algorithm that does essay scoring automatically. It's a pretty cool project. So maybe if I were them, I would be doing this. And so maybe they're doing this, maybe not. Actually, they're not doing this because this is all unsubstantiated information. But you still want to write properly, okay? So summary, new paragraph, big indent, new paragraph, skip a line, good handwriting, long length, okay? These are the four unsubstantiated information that I want you to take away. Okay, so now let's go through the scoring, and then we will set up the scoring for tomorrow. And this is how we're going to do it. So let me share my screen again. Okay, so here we have reading. So this is the score. So you want a 4, you don't want a 1. Okay, so let's take a look at what's the difference. How do we get from here to here? So we will have to demonstrate thorough comprehension of the source text. Notice how in 1 it's little or no, some, effective, and thorough. Okay, so in comprehension of the text, we have to go towards thorough. Okay, then we want to show an understanding of the text central ideas, and of most important details and how they interrelate, demonstrate a comprehensive understanding of the text. Notice how when you go to the lower down, it just shows an understanding of the text central ideas, important detail. Notice how these things that I've highlighted in number 4 are not there in number 3. So you want to identify that, right? And here you're in 1, you're just failing to completely show any understanding of the text, and may include any details without reference to central ideas. So don't include details without reference, okay? Then your text is free of errors of fact or interpretation. So no errors of fact or interpretation. And if you go to the bottom, contains numerous errors of fact or interpretation. And here it's limited. And, oh, no, wrong one. Here it is, contains errors, and here's free of substantive errors, okay? And then makes skillful use of textual evidence, such as quotations, oh, they're all of them, yep, makes skillful use of evidence, and demonstrating a complete understanding of the source text. Notice how in the lower ones, it is little or no use of textual evidence, and demonstrating little or no understanding, some understanding, and understanding, a limited use of textual evidence, appropriate use of textual evidence. Okay, so in summary, we want to demonstrate thorough comprehension, show an understanding of the text ideas, central ideas, important details, how they interrelate, demonstrate a comprehensive understanding of the text. Yeah. Free of errors of fact or interpretation, skillful use of textual evidence such as quotations, paragraphs, or both, demonstrate a complete understanding of the source. Okay, so this is very important that we understand this rubric. We will do this for all the sections, and tomorrow we will touch on how exactly we can get to this column, what we can do tactfully to get a 4. So we'll start this today. And what we'll start this today with is we will go through, we read a passage already. So we will go through one sample essay that's on Khan Academy, and let's just see what we learn. Okay, so this is the passage, we know this. Expand all. So we're focusing on reading. So reading is the first score. Yeah. So you should be able to see it in Zoom. I want you to read this entire page. And this is, please focus here. This is very important. There's a lot of learning here, so please focus. I know we're towards the end of class, but please focus on this. And I want you to read this portion also. This is very important. This is where we understand what reading score we get, okay? I want you to make sure you really understand why this is what it is. Okay, so let's go through this. So here we have, it demonstrates some comprehension. And why does it demonstrate some comprehension? Because the writer does show an understanding of 2 of Bogart's main points. So essentially, to make this a higher score, you have to demonstrate more comprehension, right? It's mostly quotations directly from the passage. We learned that in our activity today. And then there's no deeper understanding of the passage's main point, right? So let's go quickly and share. I will share my screen of the scoring, and let's score that passage based off of the scoring. Okay, so he was awarded a 2 because he demonstrated some comprehension of the text, right? He was given a 2. We know that was understood because there were 2 points that were understood. He shows an understanding of the text's central idea. That was also true, but not important details. That was also true, right? That's why he got a 2. It may contain errors of fact and or interpretation. There were no errors of fact or interpretation, I think. So I think that's why it's may over here. And then makes limited or haphazard use of textual evidence. It was actually quite haphazard because it was just entire long quotations taken directly from the paragraph, right? And there was very, very little understanding or some source understanding of the source text. You cannot give a 1 because there was actual evidence. He did not fail to show an understanding. There was some understanding. And to get the full, you want to add thorough understanding. You want to also show how they interrelate, demonstrating a comprehensive understanding, not just surface level. Free of errors of fact and interpretation. There was no interpretation in here. It was just mostly facts. So you want to have more interpretation. And then skillful use. There was no skillful use of quotations, right? That's what they mean. Okay, so we're at end of time. We will continue this exercise tomorrow. And I will play the music, the remaining of the Danceology tomorrow. And hopefully this was helpful. And see you tomorrow.
Press. Cardi don't need good enough. Ain't nobody tell me nothing. I got everything I want. I want it, I got it. I want it, I got it.
Sundays are the only thing I know. Only thing that's burning when the
It's been
nights
so
go
much you've
cold.
been going psycho. You ain't gotta say it, baby, I
Beg you to stay, beg you to stay. I've been dancing on top of cars and stumbling out of bars. I follow you through the dark, can't get enough. You're the medicine and the pain, the tattoo inside my brain. And maybe you know it's obvious. Lately I've been feeling so cool.
right now I'm shameless, screaming my lungs out for ya. It's okay to be different, 'cause baby, so am I. And I don't wanna be somebody without your body close to me. And if it wasn't you, I wouldn't want anybody close to me. Let's kill this love.
All right, thank you so much. See you next time.